Hello, everyone, and welcome to How I Built This online edition. How are you doing? How is everybody doing? We are here to talk about how businesses are building resiliency, and we are taking your questions right now on Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube, and this is a food week. We've got some incredible chefs and restaurateurs on the show all this week to talk about some of the incredible things that they're doing. Before we kick it off with Kyle Connaughton of SingleThread Farms, I just wanted to thank Comcast Business for supporting NPR and supporting How I Built This during a time when we really need that support. Comcast Business, which is powering my connection right now, is prepared for times like these, powered by the nation's largest gig speed network to help give you speed, reliability, security, and the tools you need to manage your business from any device, anytime. They've got a team of experts 24/7. For more, go to ComcastBusiness.com. We could not do these shows without their support, so thank you, Comcast Business. Okay, all this week, we're talking food and restaurants. And as you probably know, the restaurant industry was the first to be hit from the economic fallout of this crisis. And what's been amazing to see is how many restaurants and food trucks and carryout places have really stepped up to make and deliver millions of meals for hospitals, for people in need, for homeless shelters, elder care facilities, just anyone who needs it. It's just been so incredible to see. One of those restaurants is SingleThread Farm and Inn. This is one of the most acclaimed restaurants on planet Earth. 3 Michelin stars, a ton of awards, one of the most talented chefs on earth. At its helm, Kyle Connaughton. Kyle is with me from SingleThread in Healdsburg, California. Kyle, so great to see you. So great to have you here.
Yeah. Great to see you. Thanks for having me today. Thanks for doing this week. It's really exciting to be a part of it.
First of all, how is your family? How's your wife, Katina, who co-runs the restaurant, the farm with you, and your 2 daughters? How are you guys doing?
Yeah, Katina's doing good. I mean, she'd be with me right now, but she is out at the farm. We've still got, farming and, nature doesn't take any sort of break or any sort of pause. So she's out there just holding it down at the farm, keeping everything going. And, our kids are good and home from college and just, here with us. And we're just staying, very, very busy and trying to stay very positive.
So you've had so much to deal with over the past 6 months. I mean, you are in Sonoma County. The restaurant was shut down last fall because of the wildfires. You've dealt with floods on your farm that has wiped out some of your crops. And now, once again, during this health crisis, you've kind of become an expert in crisis management as a chef of a restaurant.
Yeah, I mean, we've just said as a management team, we go into crisis management mode, and everyone's getting really good at it from 2 different years of fires and flooding and now this I think we've done in the last 6 months or a year, we've done more crisis management than the entirety of my 26-year career. But we have such an amazing management team who's behind us, just sort of pushing every day with us through this. I mean, Katina and I couldn't do it with the amazing talent of everyone here on the team.
Yeah. I mean, Kyle, a lot of people don't understand that restaurants in good times operate on very thin margins. They need people to come in to be able to employ the people they employ. And it's very hard. A tiny number of restaurants make a lot of money. So even in good times, it's really tough. This is unprecedented, right? I mean, you've been shut down for weeks and weeks. You've probably seen the statistics out there that some people are predicting that 75% of restaurants in the United States won't make it out of this crisis. First of all, what's your situation at SingleThread right now?
Well, our situation here is, first of all, to your point, restaurant business is incredibly tough. Margins are very, very slim, and it doesn't really matter if you're a really, small operator or a larger sort of fine dining operator. I mean, just for independent restaurants, it doesn't matter what you are. It's just, even in good times, it's really difficult. And so, you put something like this in here, which is unprecedented and just unplanned for, and it almost becomes an impossible situation. And that's really what we were faced with here, is the fact that, being up in wine country, we kind of saw things coming from, the city at a little bit sort of, a fast speed, but it was like upon us a little bit, later, 1 or 2 weeks later, where the writing was really going to be on the wall. So I think we had some time to sort of think and react, but at the same time, we have 80 people on our team between the farm and the restaurant and the inn and the the admin, and have a great responsibility to your team and to your guests, many of whom are planning for weeks and months out to come and get into contact with them. So it's a giant shift to what we decided to do next.
Have you, I mean, I have to assume you couldn't keep all 80 people on your payroll.
No. So we've kept about 20 people working with our with the program that we put into place, and really, and then everyone else on our team has been furloughed, and everyone who's working here, which is mostly the management team, is just working incredibly hard around the clock on the two programs that we're running now, and has taken a lot of sacrifices themselves for the good of the business and the good of the restaurant and the good of the staff. So we pay everyone's 100% benefits here, and so these programs has really been about, first and foremost, keeping that intact to make sure that through this, everyone was going to have access to medical care if they need it, and that's really been it. And it's very painful when your team is your whole life, and they are what makes this vision every day happen. This is our life's work. This is our vision, and it's so difficult to try to reconcile not being able to employ them, pay them, and everything like that. It's definitely a painful thing that I know so many people across this industry and others are feeling right now.
So Kyle, let's talk about this kind of turn, these programs that you alluded to. Once it was clear that you would not be open for business, you basically kind of reconstituted some of your staff and went back into the kitchen. And tell me what you're doing. What's going on?
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, and you've spent time on our farm, you've spent time in our kitchen, you've spent you've come as a guest, you've spent time cooking in the kitchen, which our team really well. And first and foremost, for us, it's about hospitality, and we just want to cook and take care of people. It's not so much even about the artistry of what we do. It's about a sense of wanting of a deep sense of hospitality and wanting to take care of people. And that's sort of the heart of everything that we do. And I think that's true with so many people in this business, chefs and people who are in the restaurant business. They do it because they love it, because they love to take care of people. So, when in times like this, when it's sort of apparent that you're not going to be able to take care of your guests in the way that you normally, do, you look for other ways that you can take care of people. And because of the fires, and because of the huge turmoil that's created in wine country, we had an amazing organization called Sonoma Family Meal that was literally born out of the sort of melee of the fires and all of us trying to get food to those who needed it. And an amazing woman named Heather Irwin who runs that organization, and she pulled together this from the two fires, and immediately when the writing was on the wall, contacted her and said, "Look, we're going to be closing, but we've got a farm full of produce. I've got a restaurant full of food. I've got a team that just wants to cook. How about this idea? I'll start reaching out to friends of the restaurant and wineries and investors and great guests that we have, and see if they can start funding, Sonoma Family Meal. And we then in turn, we can make those, we can begin cooking that food and making that food, because we just knew that there was going to be, there's always a need, right? But that need was going to grow.
Yeah.
And really said, how can we begin to address this need? And so, I started reaching out to people, saying, look, I'm not asking for a handout for the restaurant. I want you to help us help our community. Can you make a donation here? and then we'll start preparing food, and I'll put everyone to work,
Wow.
and we'll start cooking, and then we started the takeout at night, and those meals and cooking for for families here at home who could pay for a really nice meal that we could put together still at a reasonable price, and then allow them to make donations as well to what we do during the day, which is a few hundred donation meals a day that are getting distributed to seniors, out of work agricultural workers, out of work hospitality workers, the women's shelter. And so our days are spent doing the donation meals, and our nights
Wow.
are spent doing the takeaway.
So you guys are doing, I think you're doing like 200 meals a day for people in need in Sonoma County. As you mentioned, people in hospitals and old age homes and seniors and folks who are out of work right now. I mean, it's amazing. I mean, you're a Michelin 3-star kitchen. I mean, are you, what are you making? Are you just, is your process basically exactly the same? You're just, producing it at kind of at scale?
Yeah, I mean we've kind of had to. Our kitchen isn't really oriented to like large, batch cookery of doing large things. So we've had to reorient the way that we work quite a bit. But we just have the same process. We look to see what's on our farm and how we can support farms around us by buying their produce to turn into meals. Now, recently, we've had a lot of people like the cheesemakers, like Tamales Bay Foods, and various people, donating products to us. We have a great group of gleaners called Farm to Pantry who go out and collect produce all over, and they bring it into us just like backyard fruit off of trees and things. So, we're doing all kinds of things, and then from that we develop the meals. And so, what we make during the day isn't necessarily the same thing that we make at night. At night, we're just trying to have fun at menus. We're doing like an homage to Chez Panisse one night, or an homage to Judy Rogers and Zuni Cafe, and we're just going through and exploring different types of cooking that we wouldn't normally, do, to always give some, people here something new and exciting and comforting that they can and have, and really to use that as a way not only to keep us and our team going, but as a way to fund the growing of the production of these donation meals.
And this is all basically funded by donations, entirely funded by donations.
Yeah, this is all funded by donations. So we really started this, thing here. I was really inspired by what David Neafield was doing at Kefico down in the city, where he was producing meals takeaway, but also giving meals out, for free. And we sort of expanded that up here through our networks and channels through Sonoma Family Meal. And then really it's been a lot of the wineries who have been working with us and donating money and donating wine, and we've been doing sort of days dedicated to different wineries and also selling their wines with the meals, and really trying to show support to the local wineries. And then we had a local winery owner named John Jordan, who owns Jordan Winery. His foundation put in $150,000.
I think we lost our connection with Kyle for a moment. We're going to try and reconnect with him. But while we are doing that, let me go check out some questions here. First of all, while we reconnect with Kyle, I just want to shout out to some people listening. Michal Ruprecht from Poland, thank you for listening. Beth Gaglione from North Carolina, Mary Kerr from Massachusetts, Candace in Jupiter, Florida, Jose Rodriguez in Fort Worth, Texas, Tissa Hook DeLand in Florida, Bachi Moore in Tucson, Kathleen Hall in Mill Valley. We've got Metra Maynard in Northeast Pennsylvania, Chris Field in Groveland, California, Sherry Gerke in Illinois. Thank you so much for listening. We're doing this food thing all week. We're going to have incredible people on every day, and we're going to reconnect with Kyle in a moment, and we will continue the conversation. So we won't shorten it or lose any time with him. So just stand by. But all this week we'll have Alice Waters is on tomorrow. We've got Alice Waters, the legendary Alice Waters, on the show tomorrow with her daughter Fanny. Daniel Hume of 11 Madison Park will be on Wednesday. They're doing incredible things. They're making thousands of meals a day for hospital workers, for homeless shelters. I mean, it's just amazing to watch what they're doing in New York with World Central Kitchen, and other groups working with Frontline Foods, trying to get food to hospital workers and anyone in need. We've got Christina Tosi of Milk Bar. That's happening on Thursday. They have an initiative where they're delivering cookies to hospitals. You can buy cookies and then donate a package of cookies to hospitals and doctors. We've been hearing from doctors who've said, it's just really nice just to have cookies sitting around. We're so exhausted and so overworked. We've also got Jose Andres on Thursday, a special happy hour with the legendary Jose Andres, whose World Central Kitchen, as many of you know, has done unbelievable work to get people fed around the world. He did a lot of work in Puerto Rico and now just doing amazing work. And then on Friday, Sami Nosrat, author of Salt, Fat, Acid, Heat. She's got a new podcast out, and she's going to talk a lot about, how people are kind of dealing with this at home. So stand by. We will have all that and more this week. And join us every day at 9 a.m. Pacific, 12 noon Eastern, right here for these conversations. We're going to be putting excerpts of them on our podcast feed. And by the way, if you don't subscribe to How I Built This, we have brand new episodes of the show every single week right now. We are doing our best. Our team is scrambling and working really hard to try and make this happen. And if you listen to How I Built This, we've also had to sort of pivot in the way we do interviews, because normally I interview people face to face. Like I'll be in a studio with them, or they will be in a studio in another part of the country or another part of the world, and I'll be in San Francisco. And it's all contained and organized, and they're engineers. Well, we can't do that now. So to kind of maintain the quality of what you're used to as a listener to the show, we've literally been sending people microphones to their homes and giving them instructions on how to set them up, how to be their own home engineers. And it's been amazing. So we've got a new episode out today about Brooklinen, with the co-founders, Rich and Vicky Fulop. It's such a cool episode. Last week, we had the story of Sweet Green. We've had Swell Bottles, Sierra Nevada. We've got Impossible Foods coming up. Pat Brown, just an amazing, idealistic innovator. So stand by for all that. And we will let me check in and see if Kyle is back. Kyle, are you back yet? No, lost him. All right. We're going to try to get back with Kyle. Stay with us. All this week, we're talking about how restaurants are handling the situation. Some incredible chefs in the country, Tom Colicchio in the New York area, Chris Cosentino here in the Bay Area, are really trying to get Congress to think about how to support restaurants. Because as we mentioned earlier, restaurants were sort of the canary in the coal mine, right? I mean, they were the first. This is the first industry to really get hit and be impacted by the economic and health crisis. And now where restaurants are now, we will start to see more and more businesses kind of grapple with and deal with the challenges that restaurants have dealt with. So we're going to be talking about that all week. Kyle, you are back. You're back with us. All right, good. Yeah. Well, Kyle, I want to get to some questions because we've got a bunch of questions coming in for you. So let's start with questions. This is Aaron Tell on Facebook. He asks, how did you pivot your business away from like tasting menus to takeaway so quickly? And can takeaway sustain your business? Is that enough? And I suspect the answer is no. And also, can local people afford the takeaway menu?
Well, first off, I mean, just to pivot, I mean, I think we got a lot of creative chefs here. We've got a lot of great products, and we just started cooking the way that we like to cook and the way that we like to eat, ourselves, and just do a lot of dishes and explore different things and just try to have fun and be, creative with it, and also give things to people that they want, and not make it too complicated, make it a little more comforting. Think about how people feel right now. That's really what's driven the menus and the creativity there. Ultimately, no, the business cannot sustain on, takeaway. But between that and some wine sales and, everything that we're doing, we're sort of getting by. And I have this amazing partner named Tony Greenberg, who's just working away, just making sure that everything is set and straight and, keeping the business going and moving forward so that I can really focus on the culinary side and everything that we're that we're doing operationally here. So I'm very fortunate to be able to have that. But ultimately, it's not like you can just go on endlessly like this. But we're making it happen for now. In terms of affordability, we really wanted to make the takeaway menu be affordable, not say, well, we are this 3 Michelin star restaurant, so we should do this really expensive thing. It just seemed like it was not what we wanted to do and not what guests wanted. So, our menus are anywhere between $75 to generally $100, but that's for 4 people. So, it's like, it comes out to $25, a person. And we just, the idea was not to make money. The idea was to cook, to keep people employed, to do something for the community, and ultimately support, the donation meals that we do during the day.
Kyle, and by the way, if you've got questions, if you're watching, please submit them through YouTube or Facebook or Twitter. We're curating your questions, and we'd love to keep you in on the conversation with us, with Kyle and me. Kyle, I mentioned when we lost you for a moment about Chris Cosentino in the Bay Area, Tom Colicchio in New York, really trying to create some kind of mechanism for federal aid for restaurants. And I wonder, for example, a lot of restaurants have had a hard time getting small business loans, like most businesses, many people watching, right? It's been really, really tricky. In your situation, do you think that, federal aid will have an impact? Will it be able to help? You employ at your peak 80 people in Sonoma County. It's a lot of people, and most of them are furloughed right now. Are you kind of hoping for Small Business Administration loans or grants or something that can help out?
Yeah, absolutely. We applied for the PPP, I think, like so many other people did, and obviously it's it's very heartbreaking when that doesn't come through. And I applaud everything that everyone is doing. I'm following it very closely. We're in some Slack groups together that have been created, and we try to message each other and keep each other informed, circulate things so that people are on the same page. It's a really big industry with a lot of different facets to it. We occupy one very, very small corner of the restaurant industry. So I definitely I'm hopeful, and I know that we need it as an industry. I know that we need it. I am one of those people who just never sort of expects and always wants to try to make sure that we're taking care of ourselves. I'm like a paddle your own canoe kind of person. And so, it's one of those things where, I think all of us in our industry have to hope for the best, but honestly prepare for the worst. It's kind of really looking at to say, how can we prepare ourselves if really we don't get any assistance, as an industry, and then what are we going to do? How are we going to come back from this?
How are you dealing with just the personal stress? Just being a chef on a good day is so stressful, getting up early, getting the produce, doing the prep, and then working late and getting a little bit of sleep. You've done this for 25, 30 years, working in kitchens around the world, from in the UK and Japan and in LA. Some of the best kitchens in the world. And now you are among the greatest chefs in the world. Like, how are you dealing with just the stress of this? You had to furlough all these people, and you've got to keep this restaurant alive, and it's got to weigh on you. Is it, I don't know. Are you, is part of what you're doing? Part of what you're doing with the donation program, is that kind of something that gives you that energy and gives you a boost in a sense of purpose and right now?
Yeah. You've just completely, nailed it. I've had my whole career, 26 plus years in the kitchen, and I could take all day of that stress and being on our feet and running around and being under that sort of pressure sort of any day. But this is like a whole new thing. This is a whole different level of stress. And even running a business normally is very stressful, from worrying about the quality all the time, and worrying about your team, and worrying about the Michelin inspectors who are, coming in honestly. There's all kinds of worry, but I think that all that stuff really pales in comparison, to the worry and stress that this puts on, because a lot of those things I just described, those are things that are within my control and within our control to just, to work hard to do a good job to satisfy those things. Here, all of us in the whole world, we're very powerless, to what, what's happening and what our future is. So I think that's where the stress, comes in. I think that's the stress that we're all feeling is that we just don't feel in control of our own, destinies right now. And that's a very stressful thing. Every day, for me coming in, it's just seeing this incredible team that I get to work with, every day. And I know, many of them on the team, and you've worked, with them, a little bit, and, they just come in and they give me so much energy, because they just leave all that at the door and they come in, and we're just like, we're here to cook. We see who's receiving these meals and who's getting them and what it means in their life. It makes us feel very fortunate. And I think, for as long as I can cook and take care of people, like that's what I'm going to do. I think the real stress comes in with my team who isn't working, and, how they're feeling, how they're doing, and how we can be best supporting them. I think that's what gives me, the most amount of stress. I will say, I think we're talking about a lot of, negatives, which of course we have to right now. But, the other thing that's kind of keeping me a bit sane is a hope that with this great pause that we're in, is that people are taking stock and taking inventory for themselves of what is important, and, what are the things that they sort of value, and, spending time with friends and family, gathering around the table, enjoying some good food, thinking about where their food and where those ingredients come from, enjoying a great bottle, of wine, and doing things, and having time and taking, time to decompress and get with people. I do feel that it's a little bit of like forcing, that issue. And, my hope is that, as the world starts to come back and the restaurants do start to pick themselves up and move forward, that that people will want to support independent restaurants, which they absolutely should. And two, that they'll want to have those experiences because we sort of realizing how important moments like that, not just the sustenance part of just eating good food, but the act of dining, and in that time being with people, I'm hopeful and I'm positive that will come out of this.
Yeah. Kyle, this is a question from Danny Yee through Facebook. He asks, what do you think the restaurant industry is going to look like post-COVID?
I don't have a crystal ball more than anyone else. We know that, of course, that there's going to be a lot of, of struggles of people just financially trying to build back, and the building blocks of getting, restaurants back in sort of operational. I do think it's going to be tough for, a few reasons. One, because of social distancing and how people are going to feel in sort of enclosed spaces, and also obviously the economic thing of, eating at home or, eating cheap versus, spending money on restaurant food, which I totally get and I totally understand. But I think people will have to, be hopefully very, very particular about, about what they're, what they're eating. And, yes, cook at home and do all those things, which you absolutely should be doing. But at the same time, think about restaurants that you want to support and where you want to dine, and go and take advantage of those situations. And I think restaurants, including ours, I think are going to have a lot of new options for guests. Lower price points. Maybe not so long of a menu, or you can choose this or that. I mean, these are things that we're starting, to talk about, and I think everyone in our industry is starting to talk about, is like, how can we still provide a really good value without it being this like race to the bottom in terms of trying to make cheap, because that's not good for the people working. That's not good for the people eating, and that's certainly not good for anybody involved in the supply line. I mean, good food, costs money. So, I hope that this does not become, just a race to the bottom.
Yeah, and sort of jumping on off something you said earlier, which is it's sort of complicated because obviously we've got in our country, 37,000 people who have died, and there are people who are suffering and are struggling through this illness right now. And at the same time, millions and millions of people are at home and are having to rediscover home life and kind of make do with that. And you're right. I mean, there are things about that in the midst of this very scary and anxiety-ridden crisis. There are also things that I think lots of people watching and you've discovered that are actually quite amazing, like just spending a lot of concentrated time with your family and cooking at home and sitting around. I mean, I can't remember the last time I had 3 meals a day with my children,
Sure.
Around a table for 5 weeks. And, of course, it's a little claustrophobic, but there's also something really powerful about that. And I think we shouldn't forget that, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think there's a lot of things that we shouldn't forget. I think it's the importance of that. We've always taken for granted we can spend time with friends and people that we choose to spend time with anytime we want, and now, we can't, and that's really difficult for all of us. And it's really kind of like heartbreaking to see, grandparents who can't see kids, and obviously the frontline workers who can't even see their own families because of the environment that they're in. And I think we're all experiencing it. We're all watching it. We're all witnessing it. And it does put a lot of sort of emphasis on the importance of those experiences, together. And, while I'm a chef and I love to cook food and I love the development of dishes and everything like that, that's what I really love is taking care of people. It's why our kitchen is completely open to the dining room. Katina and I, we always wanted to have the experience to be like you were coming to a dinner party in our home. We just wanted to kind of create and curate these experiences for guests and
Yeah.
tell them about our farming and tell them about Sonoma County. And this is the best of the products that we have, right here. Let us tell you about this, great local winery, all of these, kinds of things, and really allow people and give them the time and the space to disconnect for a while. And we don't say, hey, no cell phones or anything like that. Like, let people do what they
Right.
need to do. But it's almost like sometimes people need permission to relax and decompress. And now we have this sort of like forced decompression
Yeah.
that people are a stressful one. It's not all like, hey, this is just great, we get to do this, because everyone is having stress and anxiety. But like I said, I hope that we in the restaurant world can provide an environment after this, that people really want, which is to have an experience that they really place a lot more value on than just like, I'm hungry, I need to go be fed.
Right. I want to get to one more question from our audience before we have to wrap up. This is from Siobhan Lee by Facebook. She asks, how do you plan the day to day with the uncertainty, right? I mean, especially with the planning of the menu as well as what's growing on your farm, because you've got a 10-acre farm that right now, I should mention, your wife Katina and one other employee are working. They are working that farm from morning until night to keep it alive and keep it going. So how are you sort of planning day to day with that uncertainty?
Yeah, it is like a one day, at a time sort of thing. Every day we come in and focus on the day that's right in front of us and the guests that we're going to be serving and the projects that we're going to be doing. And then, really planning out the menus and stuff basically like a week in advance, which is all we can really do, because, one of the things that's also going on, that people may not be, I think they're aware of going into sort of grocery stores and seeing, but there's serious supply chain disruption happening right now. So, getting things and products and stuff that we're used to being able to just get. It's you like every day. It's a really like it's not it's not can I get this? Can I get this? It's what can I get? What can I get right now? Like what do you have? Working with our suppliers, who are also suffering. Everyone who's supplying the restaurants that are not working are also really suffering. I mean, all the way down through the chain. The fishermen, the farmers, everyone who's involved with this is being deeply impacted. So, we're really trying to support our local, farms and our local, producers, here, but, things that you take for granted, it's difficult to get. So,
Right.
we have to be flexible. We have to be sort of like nimble with that planning. Obviously, we know what's coming from our own farm, but when you're cooking for, several hundred, I mean, we're cooking for up to 500 people a day. That's numbers and turnover product that we're just not used to here.
Wow. And that was a question from Kirk Paulson via Facebook. So thanks for that question, Kirk, and I hope you got an answer. Before we let you go, I want to ask you one final question. I'm gonna kind of use Brian Hankins, who asked a question via Facebook. His question is a jumping off point. How do you think this pandemic is going to transform, the food industry and the restaurant industry's approach to serving the community? And when we talk about this time in 5 years, Kyle, what do you want to have taken from this as somebody who's trying to build resiliency into your business and everything you do?
Well, I hope what we sort of take, away from this is the need and the importance to support the community. It's so easy. We all get very, very busy running our businesses, running our kitchens, and they're very complex and complicated. And chefs are such giving people by nature. They're always doing a charity event and an auction or anything like that. It's like we're always like the first ones there, I think, to step up and want to do something. But sometimes it's at a bit of a safe distance, and I think hopefully this is bringing us, not just chefs, but all of us, just sort of like closer to need and wanting to address that need. I mean, when this is over, we won't like dust off our hands and say, okay, that's it. Sonoma family meal. You guys good? Great. We're going to go back to regular thing. I mean, we're committed. We're in this for the long haul. I mean, it would be that if we had fires, we would cook, the fires would go away and we'd kind of get back to normal business. And I think now it's like, now this is part of our routine. This is just part of our life. This is the norm for us, is to address that need because we always know that it's going to be there. And I do hope that is more of the norm. And it's just incredible to see. I mean, the list is too long to even start to say across our industry, amazing people and what they're doing. I mean, it's just, I'm so impressed with what I see from so many, people. And then the second part, I think, sort of like reflecting back, I think that our industry and the sort of world surrounding it has just been churning and churning and churning for so long. And we haven't really in our lives, like really taken a lot of sort of pause to reflect, that much on it. And, like I said, I hope it's leading us to not only a way where we're addressing need, but really, really a focus on more awareness of the choices that we make that surround food, what they have to do with the environment at large. And I hope that the guests and the consumer realize that they are voting with their dollars by what foods they choose to eat and which restaurants they choose to eat at, and what types of food systems they choose to support. And that has a real impact, all the way through to farming and food miles and all kinds of different things, sustainability of seafood. So I hope that we do reflect back and say that was the big inflection point. Like that's when we really, really sort of like turned and got a little bit more focused. And I just hope that we have the economic ability and the economic wherewithal to actually carry through and realize that.
Yeah, and we're going to talk a lot more about that tomorrow with Alice Waters right here. Kyle, stand by before we let you go. Just want to let everyone know again that this week is Food Week on How I Built This Online, our live series that we're doing now. Who knows? Maybe forever. This week I'll be talking to more incredible people like Kyle, as I mentioned. Tomorrow, Alice Waters will join us right here, 9 a.m. Pacific, 12 Eastern time. to talk about some of these issues that Kyle has raised about, rethinking about where our food comes from, how we grow it, what, about supply chains. So super excited to have Alice and her daughter Fanny on tomorrow here. We've got more incredible people on the show throughout the week. Daniel Hume of SingleThread of 11 Madison Park, Christina Tosi of Milk Bar, Jose Andres, Sami Nosrat. So join us. If you miss it, you can always watch it at our Facebook page or our YouTube channel. Once again, thank you so much to Comcast Business for supporting this and supporting NPR at a time where we really need that support. Thank you all for watching and for being part of this community. Check out our new episode of How I Built This with Brooklinen. It's out today. Chef Kyle Connaughton of SingleThread Farm and Inn. Thank you so much. You're awesome. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for all of your support personally for everything that we've been doing. Really, really, really appreciate it. If you want to know more about Sonoma Family Meal, you can see that on sonomafamilymeal.org.
Thanks, Kyle.
Thank you.